Some of Mississippi's most iconic landmarks are in downtown Jackson. The state's first skyscrapers are there, and some of the oldest buildings in the state. 3 of them are well-known antebellum buildings, the old Capitol, where the vote for Mississippi to secede from the Union was taken, Jackson's City Hall, whose 3rd floor is actually a Masonic Hall, and the Mississippi Governor's Mansion. Only one other older governor's mansion in the nation is still in use. But as beautiful and as historic as these buildings may be, none of these are Jackson's oldest existing landmark. That would be this, Greenwood Cemetery. It dates from the earliest days of the city and was already in use when any of the buildings still standing were constructed. The state legislature passed an act establishing Greenwood Cemetery in 1823. It's grown from its original 6 acres to 22 acres today, and a pretty good cross-section of Jackson is buried here. It was never segregated. If you died in Jackson, you got buried here. Cecile Wardlaw is with the Greenwood Cemetery Association, which is the volunteer group which pretty much looks after the cemetery.
There were no sections for any groups. We didn't have Catholics and Protestants. We didn't have blacks and whites. Everybody just got buried.
Tell me about the people buried here. Who are some of our notables?
Well, we have 7 governors. We have Confederate generals. We have a Confederate section, and we did survey that, and there's some evidence of mass graves in that area. When you walk around, you see the names of people that things in Jackson are named for. At Workday, a couple of weeks ago, we had descendants from 2 elementary school namesakes, the Frenches and the Spans. And I just saw Mr. Fondren's name over there. So it's streets and schools and just familiar names in Jackson are buried here.
The antique roses are a relatively new addition, although you see such roses in cemeteries all over the South, especially in places famous for them like Natchez City Cemetery. These are a recent addition and are a thoughtful gift from gardening guru Felder Rushing.
He went to the Antique Rose Emporium in Texas, and instead of getting a fee, he came back with a truck and trailer load of roses, and he did that 2 or 3 years, and the master gardeners helped him plant them.
As with other establishments, the use of the cemeteries changed over the years. Well, it's always been a place for burying the dead, but people used to come here a lot, and not all that long ago, especially on Sunday afternoons. Before the days of cable TV and the easing of the blue laws, you didn't have many options for Sunday afternoon entertainment.
My mother grew up in Jackson, and she said that they would come on Sunday afternoon. The churches were pretty strict about what you could do socially on Sundays, but you could certainly come to the cemetery, and you could even bring lemonade and cookies and visit with your ancestors and your neighbors and their ancestors.
Fixtures like the summer house in the cemetery were built to accommodate strollers who wanted shelter from the heat or needed a place to dodge a sudden thunderstorm. Writer Eudora Welty took many of her memorable photographs of some of the monuments in the cemetery. There are a number of monuments that lend themselves to photography, especially if you're attracted, as I am, to pretty much any cemetery you can walk out of. And as an added bonus to photographers and literary buffs alike, one of the markers in the cemetery she used to love to photograph, is Eudora Welty's.
Eudora Welty is buried here, and we have lots of travelers, tourists who come to see Eudora's grave. Her photograph is on the front of our brochure. She did that photograph for us. And this angel is still here, minus her hand, which we have, and we'll get it attached someday. That was when the big oak tree fell, this angel was just wrapped in the arms of the tree and lifted down to the ground. And her only injury was that her wrist broke.
And there's lots more not to miss here. You can take a self-guided walking tour by picking up a copy of that brochure.
The brochure is on in the little holder on the summer house. When you drive in, you can stop and pick up a brochure, and it has a map and identifies many of the most interesting and the most beautiful monuments here, because it's like an art gallery. The beautifully hand-carved marble monuments throughout the cemetery.
Cemeteries have always been for the living. The dead buried here couldn't care less how decorated the place it is. And Greenwood Cemetery's come back alive, as it were, over the past few years, especially as living in downtown Jackson has come into fashion.
It's downtown Jackson's largest green space, and we want everybody to think of it as a beautiful park.
So with lots of people working downtown and taking lunchtime walks here, and people living downtown also utilizing it, Greenwood Cemetery, once again, is one of downtown Jackson's most popular areas, and not just for Sunday afternoons anymore.